Hello, my name's Kathrine Brenton. I'm going to be showing you how to create a 1940s, 50s makeup for the York Mystery Plays. This is for the women who play the role of humanity. First of all, what we're going to do is start by using cream foundation. Now this could be any that you use that's in your makeup kit already. If you don't have one, I suggest you get one that's got a fairly good coverage to it. You don't want anything particularly heavy that's going to clog the skin, but at the same time a tinted moisturiser is not going to be strong enough or heavy enough in texture. So as you see, I'm just quickly blending, starting at the centre and working my way out so that it fades away as we get to the edge of the face. And just pop a little bit more on. So again, warming it in my fingers and then just quickly blending it away. So we've got our base on now. What I'm going to do at this stage, before I start to put any type of powder on, is actually start to put in a bit of shading. The reason I'm doing this is because the look that we're trying to go for is one where the actresses are quite tired looking, and to do this, what we're going to do is actually shade areas of the face. So we're going to start off by doing the cheekbones, or just underneath. We're not trying to go for a bronzed look on top of the cheekbone to look healthy. We're trying to look quite sunken and sallow. So what we'll do first of all, you can either suck your cheeks or just feel the bone. And we're going just underneath the cheekbone, and I'm using quite a dark foundation to do this. So really for this look you're going to need your normal coloured foundation and then a much darker one and quite a yellow tone. So I'm feeling along the cheekbone. Do the same on the other side. Temples. When you do this, try and avoid the temptation to completely blend it away. First of all, what we're doing is just getting placement. We will blend it a bit more than this. The other areas that I'm going to do is actually on the bone of the socket. A good trick is to raise your chin and look down, and this automatically highlights the cheekbone, the socket bone. Do the same on the other side. What we want to try and do is create quite a hollow look to the eye. Now if we concentrate this into the inside corners as well, it starts to make the eyes look quite tired and quite haunted looking. We're going to bring it further down underneath the eye area as well. So again, at the moment I'm just placing the colour. We can do the blending in a moment. After you've done this a few times it becomes very, very easy. So we've put the placement of it, and what I'm going to do now, just take any excess off my fingers and just start to soften down the edges so we don't end up with just smudges of makeup. You'll find that once you put the powder over the top of this, it will actually diffuse the colour as well. I'll show you it from the side so you get an idea. We're not going to put any blusher on because again we're trying to avoid that sort of healthy look. It's meant to be quite a tired appearance. Okay, so now that we've done that, what we're going to do is actually set it with some powder. And again, I'm just using a pressed powder here. Loose powder is fantastic as well, it's just a little bit messier. And this isn't any particularly one designed for theatre. It's literally one from a high street store, Superdrugs, Boots. And it's relatively inexpensive as well. You don't have to pay a lot of money. And you probably actually have one in your makeup kit already. So I'm just patting it as well as sweeping it. By patting it you get a much better coverage and you're more likely to keep the makeup on. And I'm not wasting time doing this, it's nice and quick. If you feel that once you've put your powder on, it's not quite dark enough, use a bronzer, but do it in the same way that we did the cream, going underneath the cheekbone. This time I'm using a powder one because once you put that powder on, you don't want to go back over it with cream, as you'll start to have difficulty blending. So I'm just going underneath the cheekbone again, and the temples. And again, you can put some onto the brow bone if you want to, or just that socket bone. It just creates that tiredness. So the plays are being set in the 40s and 50s, so we want to try and give the feeling of that era. The problem with it is that that era, the makeup and hair is actually quite glamorous, and we're not wanting to try and go down that road. So we're going to give elements of it, but without actually creating the whole glamour. What I'm going to do that is actually define the brows. This was a very distinct feature of that makeup. It's also really useful for the play because it helps. The brows are a really good way of expressing emotion, so to emphasise them will really help. So we're starting at the arch of the brow, which is the highest point, and we're creating that definition, and then what we're doing is working our way in. I'm using a powder which is like an eyeshadow, a couple of shades lighter actually than my actual colour of brow. The beauty of using a shadow is it tends to stay on better. However, you could use a cream if you wanted to, like a pencil and a brow pencil. The only problem with those is they can sometimes melt away or smudge. So we've got the brow on now. Now I'm going to use liner. I'm not going to use liquid liner as they would have done in the era because it's too defined, and it's also quite a difficult thing to control. What I'm going to use is a black pencil, and we're going to just use it just to give definition around the lash line. We're not going to go too heavy with it. And then if you want to, you can just give it a slight flick out at the outside. So I've done one eye, and then we're just going to go back and do the other. I always find one eye just slightly more difficult to do. So we've got that definition. Now we're going to apply some mascara. Again, just any normal mascara that you've got. Black's probably the best because it's just dark enough for stage. And we're just doing it to the top lashes. And just do that on the other side as well. So then what we're going to finish off by is actually doing the lips. Again, it's the colour most associated with the era we're wanting to do is red. However, we don't want to have that ultra glamorous, really sharp red lips because it's out of character. So instead what we're going to do is use a red lipstick, go for one that's an orange red rather than a blue red, and it's more in keeping with the era. And what I'm actually going to do is use my finger and dab it on. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want a full coverage and I don't want a glossy finish to it. I want it to look almost like it's worn off, like you've had a day of application and then you've not reapplied it. Looks tired. Just going to blend that on from my shading earlier. And you can adjust this. If you feel you've gone too dark with it, matte it off with some tissue or a bit of powder over the top of it. And if you feel you've not put enough, just add more. I'm not going to put lip liner on with it because I don't want it to look polished. I am actually just going to dust powder over the top of it to give it a more faded look. I'm just going to repowder my nose where it's gone a little bit shiny. This is something that you will need to do throughout the play, maybe if you go off stage, actually just apply a little bit more powder. And that's your finished look for the Women's Humanity.